Ladies, let's be honest for a second. You're here because he's acting like he doesn't care, like you never mattered. No texts, no calls, maybe he even looks happy on social media. But deep down, something doesn't add up, does it? Maybe you're asking yourself, how did he move on so fast? Was I just a placeholder? Did it mean nothing to him? And the worst part? You don't have answers, just silence. Silence that's loud enough to keep you up at night. But let me ask you something. What if he hasn't moved on at all? What if everything you're seeing is just a front, a highlight reel, masking what he's really feeling behind the scenes? This video isn't about false hope. It's about the truth, the behaviors, the patterns, and the psychology most people miss after a breakup. Because here's the secret. People rarely show their true emotions when they feel like they've lost control. And when it comes to heartbreak, silence can be louder than I miss you. Indifference, often just a shield. And moving on, sometimes just acting. So before you give up, block him, or write your own ending, let's break this down together. Not with guesswork or wishful thinking, but with real signs, real psychology, and real answers. Because if he's pretending, you're about to see right through it. So let's talk about what's probably messing with your head the most right now. The fact that he's out here acting like none of this affected him. Like he never loved you. Like the relationship meant nothing. And you're stuck wondering, how can he just shut it off like that? The truth? Most men are conditioned to suppress, not process. From a young age, they're told not to show weakness, not to cry, not to talk about feelings. So when a relationship ends, even one that cut deep, their default reaction isn't vulnerability. It's detachment. It's performative strength. He may be posting pictures with friends, flirting in comments, or going radio silent, and all of it seems cold. But what you need to understand is indifference is often a cover for emotional overload. When someone doesn't know how to process hurt, they numb themselves and hope you notice. You see, acting like he doesn't care gives him power, or at least the illusion of it. Because if he looks unbothered, he feels like he's one step ahead. He doesn't want to be the one who lost the breakup. So instead of reaching out or opening up, he disappears behind a mask, hoping you'll chase. But here's what he didn't plan for. You're not just waiting, you're observing. And you're starting to realize that someone who truly didn't care wouldn't need to prove it. They wouldn't need to flaunt it. They'd just move on quietly. The louder someone pretends, the less peace they actually have. So if he's acting like you never mattered, don't take it at face value. He's playing a role, and while he's busy performing, you're about to start healing. You're done decoding mixed signals. You're stepping into clarity, and believe me, that is the power he wasn't expecting. You want the truth. When someone's really moved on, they move quietly. They don't need to prove anything. They don't look back. They don't check your profile or stay connected to your world. They just disappear. Not to hurt you, but because they're finally free. But when someone hasn't moved on, no matter how hard they try to hide it, there's one major giveaway. And no, it's not texting you late at night. It's not liking your posts or randomly watching your stories. It's not even showing up by accidents in places you hang out. Those can all be signs, sure, but they can also be manipulation or ego. The real sign, the one that tells you he's truly still thinking about you, is this. He finds subtle ways to keep your emotional thread alive. Let me explain. When a guy hasn't let go emotionally, he will not fully let you go digitally, mentally, or socially. You'll notice he doesn't unfollow you, even though he's not engaging. He doesn't block you, even though he easily could. He stays quiet, but close. He lurks. Why? Because he wants to know if you've moved on before he does. He's still mentally tethered to you. That's the key. And it's not just digital. Friends may mention he's asking about you, but not reaching out. He might bring you up in passing to mutuals, not because he wants to get back together, but because he needs to know where he stands in your mind. That's the #1 sign. He's maintaining a quiet emotional connection without any direct communication. When someone is truly done, they cut the emotional cord. When someone's not, they leave that cord hanging, invisible, but still there. It's not always romantic. Sometimes it's about pride, sometimes guilt, sometimes unfinished emotions. But no matter the reason, if you sense he's still mentally in your orbit without being in your life, trust your intuition. That's not a coincidence. That's tension. And tension doesn't exist in emptiness. It exists where feelings still linger. So don't fall for the silence. Watch for the connection. Is he still circling your world without stepping into it? That's the clearest sign you live rent-free in his mind, whether he admits it or not. Now the question becomes, does that mean anything? Does it change your path? Or is it just a reminder that you're stronger than he expected, and harder to forget than he's willing to say out loud? You already know the answer. Keep watching. It only gets clearer from here. Social media isn't just a highlight reel, it's a roadmap to someone's emotional state, especially after a breakup. People think the silence means nothing's happening. But in reality, what they post, and even more importantly, what they don't, reveals more than they think. Let's start with the most obvious move, sudden overposting. If he was never that active online, and suddenly he's everywhere, selfies, gym pics, out with friends, it's not just coincidence. It's curated. And it's usually for one person, you. That's not confidence. That's a performance. He wants you to see him living his best life without you. Even if it's not real, it's a silent dig. A visual "I'm doing fine" that he hopes will trigger a reaction. But what's even louder than what he posts is what he avoids posting. Notice if he's intentionally keeping certain things off the radar. Maybe there's no trace of who he's hanging out with. No stories from nights out that used to flood his feed. That's not privacy. That's intentional filtering. He's not showing the full picture because he knows you're watching, and part of him still wants control over what you see and how you feel. Here's another subtle clue. Engagement patterns. Does he pop up right after you post? Watch your stories almost instantly, but never reply. That's no accident. That's emotional surveillance. He wants access to you without having to open the door. He's close enough to feel your presence, but distant enough to avoid vulnerability. It's a classic move from someone who hasn't moved on but doesn't want to admit it either. Also pay attention to passive signals, cryptic quotes, breakup memes, or emotional song lyrics that just happen to be in his captions or stories. He'll never tag you. He won't say your name, but he's speaking to you. Indirect communication is how people protect their ego while still feeding their emotions. If he posts something that feels too relevant to be random, it probably isn't. And maybe the biggest sign of all, he hasn't removed you. You're still in his followers, still friends, still connected. If someone really wanted to move on, they'd remove the temptation. Staying digitally attached is emotional procrastination. He's not ready to let go. He's just pretending he already has. So no, it's not just Instagram or just a post. These are breadcrumbs, clues. And when you line them up, the message is loud and clear. You're still on his mind, whether he double taps or not. You haven't heard from him in days, maybe weeks. No texts, no calls, no explanations. It's like he vanished, like the connection you had just dissolved into thin air. But then, he watches your stories. He likes a post from 3 days ago. He shows up in the "Who viewed your profiles" list. He's not speaking, but he's still there, ghosted yet lurking, silent yet present, and it messes with your head. Let's be clear, when someone ghosts, the obvious message is, "I'm done." But when they keep lurking after ghosting, that message becomes murky, and that's intentional. He's gone quiet, but he hasn't truly left, and that's because he doesn't want to let go fully. He just wants to pull back without confrontation, without having to explain himself, and definitely without giving you closure. So why does he do it? Why disappear, and then still watch from a distance? The truth is simple but uncomfortable. He wants to keep access to you without the responsibility of being with you. Watching your stories, that gives him a window into your life. It lets him know if you're moving on, if you're hurting, if there's someone else. And the more you post, the more he gets to feel connected, without ever having to reach out. It's control without commitment. He gets emotional proximity without any emotional effort. That's the game. And whether he realizes it or not, it's selfish. Because while you're sitting there wondering why he left, what you did wrong, or if he still cares, he's watching like it's entertainment, never offering clarity. But here's something to remember. Someone who truly respects you, even if the relationship had to end, won't disappear without a word, and then stay tethered to your life like a ghost. That's not love. That's confusion, fear, and ego. He's not lurking because he's ready to come back. He's lurking because he's not ready to see you move on without him. The moment you stop posting just to be seen, the moment you stop wondering if he saw it, is the moment you take your power back. Because every view without action, every silent watch without words, that's not a real connection. That's a shadow. And you were never meant to live in the shadows of someone else's indecision. So let him lurk, let him watch, but don't wait. Don't pause your life to keep him curious. His silence says enough. Your healing will say more. He's fine, right? That's what he wants you to believe. He's calm, casual, maybe even laughing in the background of someone's story. He looks like he's sleeping great, eating well, unbothered, untouched. Meanwhile, you're over here wondering how he could just switch off like that. How does someone go from "I love you" to radio silence? From late night conversations to complete detachment? The truth is, most men don't get over it as fast as they pretend. They just don't show the fall the way you might expect, because they're not allowed to. From a young age, boys are told not to cry, not to break, not to feel too much. Vulnerability, that's weakness. So what do they learn? They learn to mask, to default to one line when things fall apart. I'm fine, but I'm fine is a defense mechanism, not a reality. It's not a reflection of healing. It's a shield. Saying I'm fine is easier than admitting he feels lost without you, that his ego's bruised, that he misses the version of himself that only existed when he was with you. Because if he admits any of that, it means letting down the armor. And for a lot of men, that armor is all they know. You have to understand, appearing okay is part of how some men survive breakups. They act numb to protect themselves from embarrassment, from regret, or worse, from feeling powerless. They'll fill their schedule, bury themselves in distractions, chase quick validations, not because they've moved on, but because staying still would force them to sit with the loss, and sitting with that feels unbearable. So they cover it. They wear confidence like a costume. They laugh louder. They post more. They talk about you less. And on the surface it works. People around them believe it. Sometimes even you believe it. But behind closed doors, the silence is heavier than ever. Because no matter how hard someone tries to outrun emotion, it always catches up. So when you see him say he's fine, don't assume he is. Don't let that surface level performance become your truth. And more importantly, don't compare your healing timeline to his highlight reel. Just because he looks ahead, doesn't mean he's not stuck behind the scenes. Eventually the mask slips. And when it does, it's usually in private. A song hits different. A memory cracks through. And suddenly the "I'm fine" becomes "I miss her." Not always out loud, but internally, it's there. You just may never see it. But that's okay. You don't need proof of his pain to validate your own. His mask isn't your responsibility to remove. It's his burden to carry. Yours is to heal. Let's talk about one of the most frustrating questions after a breakup. How long does it actually take to move on? Is it weeks, months, a year? Because right now you're looking at him, and it looks like he's already over it. You're still replaying memories while he's out laughing, living, and posting like nothing happened. And you start wondering, why is this taking me so long? Here's the truth that nobody really says out loud. Moving on isn't a one-size-fits-all timeline. It's not linear. It doesn't follow a formula. It depends on how deeply you felt, how much of yourself you gave, and how honest you are with your emotions. But here's the kicker. The people who look like they moved on fast, they usually didn't. There's a huge difference between distracting yourself and healing yourself. One numbs the pain, the other processes it. And most people, especially right after a breakup, go for distraction first. They date quickly, party more, post constantly, and tell everyone they're fine. Why? Because facing the loss means facing themselves. And that takes emotional work. Work that a lot of people delay for months, even years. Studies have shown it can take 3 to 6 months just to feel emotionally stable again after a meaningful breakup. And if you were truly in love, if you built your life around that person, moving on could take longer. But that's not a weakness. That's a sign of depth. You're not just letting go of a person. You're letting go of plans, of routines, of future memories that won't happen. That deserves time. The irony is, the one who seems fine might actually be the one who breaks later. The feelings they push down, they don't disappear, they just delay impact. And it usually hits when the distractions stop, when they're alone, when things quiet down, when they realize you're not coming back. That's when the truth shows up. So if you're still hurting, still healing, still processing, don't compare your timeline to his performance. Healing isn't a race, it's a process of reconnecting with yourself, your peace, your clarity, your worth. And trust me, if you take the time to really move on, not just pretend to, you won't find yourself circling back later, wondering what if. You'll know why it ended. You'll feel done. Let him move fast. Let him fake peace. You're not behind. You're just being real. And real healing, that always lasts longer, because it goes deeper. So maybe you've heard something through the grapevine. A mutual friend said he's over it. Someone else said he's doing fine. Or maybe his boys are telling people he's chilling, and living his best life, or not thinking about you anymore. And now you're sitting there wondering, is that really the truth? Or are his friends just saying what he wants them to say? Let's break this down. When it comes to male friendships, especially in breakups, there's often an unspoken rule: protect the pride. Most guys don't sit around having deep emotional conversations with their friends about heartbreak. They joke it off, they change the subject, or they brush it under the rug with phrases like, "I'm good, man," or "it wasn't that serious." Not because they don't feel anything, but because they don't want to look like they do. So when his friends say he's fine, they're not lying, they're just repeating what he told them. And what he told them is probably exactly what he wants you to believe. But underneath all of that is something way more complicated. Because emotions don't vanish just because you don't talk about them. The truth is, his friends may not know the full story either. They might not see the way he checks your profile when no one's around. They don't hear the songs he skips, because they remind him of you. They don't see the moments when he's alone, scrolling through old messages or thinking about reaching out, but doesn't. What they see is the version he chooses to show, and usually that version is unbothered. Men often process heartbreak internally and delayed, so by the time his friends are saying he's over it, he might just be starting to feel the weight of the loss. And because he's built up this image of being fine, he now has to maintain it, even if he's not. Here's something to remember. Silence doesn't mean peace, and secondhand information isn't always the truth. Just because his friends aren't saying he's hurting doesn't mean he's not. You're not hearing the 2 a.m. thoughts. You're not seeing the dreams he can't shake. You're only hearing the filtered version, the one meant to protect his ego and control the narrative. So don't base your healing on what they say. Don't let his friends' words make you feel like your connection was one-sided or forgettable. You know what you shared. You know what was real. Let them play cool. You're busy getting real. Eventually, the truth always leaks out. Maybe not through his friends, maybe not out loud, but trust me, the things he buries always find their way back. And by the time they do, you'll already be past needing to know. You've probably asked yourself this question more than once. Should I reach out? Maybe it's been days, weeks, even months, and the silence feels heavier with time. You wonder if he's waiting for you to make the first move. You replay the last conversation. You tell yourself, maybe if I just send one message, I'll get the clarity I need. But let's pause that thought and really sit with it. Reaching out isn't wrong. It's human. We crave closure. We want answers. We want to feel seen, even after everything. But before you send that text, ask yourself this: are you reaching out to reconnect, or to rescue your ego from the silence? Because sometimes what we miss isn't the person, it's the validation, the comfort of knowing we mattered, the hope that they're still thinking about us. And so we send that message, hoping it will fix the ache. But here's the hard truth. If he wanted to talk, he would have. If he wanted to check in, he had the chance. If he's been silent this long, that silence is his message. Now that doesn't mean he doesn't care. People go quiet for a lot of reasons: pride, fear, avoidance. But none of those reasons should leave you carrying the emotional labor for two people. If reaching out is going to leave you more confused, more hurt, or back in a cycle of mixed signals, you already have your answer. Still, there are situations where reaching out can make sense. If you need to say something for you, not to get a specific reaction from him. Closure that comes from honesty, not strategy. But even then, you have to be okay with whatever response you get, or don't get. Because once you hit send, you give up control. And that's where most people get stuck. They reach out hoping to control the outcome, instead of release the emotion. So before you reach out, ask yourself this: will this message bring me peace, regardless of what happens next? If the answer is no, it's not the right time. If the answer is yes, and your heart is in a place of clarity, not desperation, then speak your truth. But don't chase, don't beg, and don't reopen a wound that you've been trying so hard to close. Reaching out doesn't make you weak, but knowing when not to, that's strength, that's growth. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Here's the bottom line. No matter what he's doing, thinking, or feeling right now, the most important thing is this: you hold the power to write your own story. You're not stuck waiting on his next move, his next message, or his next sign. You're not living in the shadow of his silence or his attention. You're the one who decides how your life moves forward. Taking back your power means owning your feelings. The good, the bad, the messy. It means giving yourself permission to heal on your own terms, without waiting for someone else's validation. Because real strength doesn't come from pushing someone else to change, or from trying to guess their next move. It comes from focusing on yourself and your own growth. It's easy to get caught up in what he's doing, to obsess over every like, every story view, every silence message. But the truth is, none of that defines your worth. None of that controls your future. When you step away from that emotional noise and focus inward, you start to rediscover who you really are, beyond the relationship, beyond the heartbreak. This is your moment to rebuild, to invest in your passions, your dreams, your friendships, to surround yourself with people who lift you up and remind you of your value. Because when you reclaim your power, you stop waiting for permission to be happy. You just choose it. Remember, healing isn't about forgetting. It's about growing. It's about turning the pain into lessons and the lessons into strength. And it's about trusting that better days are ahead, whether or not he's part of them. So don't wait for him. Don't look for signs or answers outside yourself. The power has always been yours, and the moment you take it back, everything changes. You've got this. Alright, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this. Breakups are never easy, and unraveling what someone's really thinking, even harder. But remember, understanding his actions is just one step on your journey. The real power comes from what you do next. If this video helped you see things clearer, or gave you some peace of mind, please hit that like button and subscribe, because there's so much more coming your way. We're diving deeper into relationships, healing, and all the tricky emotional stuff that no one really talks about. Next up, we'll be exploring how to rebuild your self-confidence after heartbreak, because confidence isn't something you just get back. It's something you rebuild, piece by piece. And trust me, I've got some practical tips and mindset shifts that will help you own your worth like never before. Also, if you want to get involved, drop your questions or stories in the comments below. I read every single one, and sometimes feature your stories in upcoming videos, so don't be shy. This channel is all about creating a community where we support each other through the highs and lows. And hey, if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, don't forget to check out the links in the description for some helpful resources and guides. Healing is a process, but you don't have to do it alone. Thanks again for watching. Stay strong, keep growing, and I'll see you in the next video. Remember, your story is just getting started.